Inside the Krell Dominion's War Council, tension surges as a human vessel performs a forbidden act. It crosses the galactic line of silence. Shock echoes as the humans initiate an action considered suicidal by all known civilizations. But the message Earth delivers is not one of negotiation, it's the reawakening of ancient vengeance. The obsidian walls of the Krell High Accord Council pulsed with shifting light, each pulse a heartbeat of the galaxy's most unyielding empire. Counselor Arshul clicked his mandibles in discomfort. They were watching it again. On the central projection node, the Forbidden Zone shimmered, a region marked by ancient treaties, dead stars, and lost civilizations. A line no species dared cross. Until now. The silence shattered. The sensor feed crackled with static before stabilizing. A human vessel. No, not just a vessel. A supercarrier. Obsolete by their own fleet standards, immense, covered in archaic hull plating, radiation-scarred, patched with what looked like asteroid rock. That shouldn't be there, whispered Counselor Vex of the Zorii. Humans abandoned supercarriers centuries ago. This is deliberate, rasped Arshul. A message. One by one, systems blinked to life across the line. The supercarrier moved slow, deliberately slow, as if dragging history itself into their space. Weapons offline, shields down, comms silent. But its course was straight, toward Krell's forward sentry planet, Kalzivar. Activate defensive grid, shouted. Sub-Warlord Hentik. Protocol Varnket. Denied, came the flat response of Overseer AI 9VX. Protocol conflict. Line has not been legally breached, no active fire. They crossed the line. That is a breach, roared Hentik. They crossed it unarmed, Rashul said coldly. This is war by implication, not declaration. Then, static. The human. Ship's feed blinked open. No demand, no threat. Just one figure, alone, standing in the dark of the supercarrier's bridge. A human female, adorned in what looked like pre-solar age armor, full of scarred plating and old Terran insignias. Her eyes locked onto the Council's observation core. Her voice, low, controlled, measured. You broke the first protocol when you glassed Mendel Station. We break the last one now. No scream, no war cry. Just finality. The screen went black. Counselor Vexal's skin began to molt from stress. There are 2,000 Krell citizens on Kalzivar's moon. Civilians. They know, Rashul murmured. That's the point. From the human bridge, the camera feed resumed. This time from orbit. The carrier released a single pod. No energy spike, no blast, just a descent, then silence again. Until, seconds later, a ripple, gravitational, a micro-singularity bloomed just above Kalzivar's moon. No fire, no light, only collapse. The moon folded into itself like paper into fire. In the dark, the woman on the screen closed her eyes and whispered, Protocol reset. Human response, aligned. And cut the transmission. No ceremony, no gloat. Just cosmic silence. Across the council, no one spoke. No one blinked. It had begun. A war not of territory, but of meaning. A war where protocol was the last rule, and now it was shattered. Aboard the human supercarrier Icarus Wake, Commandant Celine Ashford prepares her crew for the galaxy's psychological recoil. In silence, they watch the aftermath of their first strike. Tension builds, not from alien retaliation, but from the void of response. Humans are used to being underestimated. That ends now. The observation deck of Icarus Wake was a cathedral of dark metal and unspoken memory. Commandant Selina Ashford stood alone as the screen projected the moon's obliteration in reverse. Gravitational telemetry mapped into visual art. Every fold, every implosion, a precise echo of the singularity charge she'd ordered. The silence among the crew below was reverent. They didn't scramble defense fleets, said Lieutenant Descrez from the lower pit. No response signatures. No active formations. They didn't believe we'd do it. Celine didn't turn. Not disbelief, they believed we couldn't. She stepped down from the platform slowly, her boots ringing on the hollow floor. We weren't supposed to be this bold, she said. That's the myth they crafted. Terrans are loud, rebellious, but not mad enough to walk into sacred space and make a statement of annihilation. Dacres looked up. It wasn't annihilation, it was demonstration. Celine met his gaze. That's what makes it worse. The bridge lights dimmed. A low hum from the engine core grew as the ship drifted forward. Minimal propulsion. No visible threat. Below decks, tech teams worked in wordless efficiency. The ship's AI, Moros, reported passive scans showing 74 fleets entering adjacent regions. None with open trajectories. Just watchers. They're waiting to see if we escalate, Moros said in its human male voice tone. British calm, vaguely disappointed like a worn-down professor. Some are scanning for cloaked armaments. Others are debating if this is a bluff. It's always a bluff, Selene murmured. Until it isn't. She turned back toward the massive sloping corridor behind the observation dome, a long mural of human history etched into the titanium walls. The Exodus, the Sol collapse, the uplink wars, and finally Mendel Station, a crater of cinders floating in the archives, where 2,000 researchers, many unarmed, were turned to glass by Krell preemptive retaliation. The galaxy had called. It had justified escalation. Humanity called it genocide. A junior ensign approached. Ma'am, civilian channels are lighting up, sympathies shifting, there's fear, but also admiration. They'll call it madness, Celine said. Then courage, then inevitability. Dacres blinked. We're going to lose allies over this. Only those who never intended to stand beside us. Silence again. Not absence of sound, the tension-thick kind. Like space itself was holding breath. Moros's voice returned, quieter. Council has gone dark. Several factions are withdrawing from the treaty accords. The line is dissolving. Celine nodded once. That was the goal. We don't need their law anymore, she said. We've written a new one. One message, one act, no threats, no monologues, just consequence. Outside the observation dome, the stars shifted as Icarus, wake angled toward deeper Dominion space. A course plotted not with strategy but with intent. This wasn't about conquest. It was ritual. Across the galaxy, protocols flickered and failed. Lines drawn over millennia were being rewritten by something primitive and eternal. Choice. She opened a secure comm to all Terran ships. This is Commandant Ashford. The silence will not save them. We move. And as the stars drifted forward, 1,000 cloaked Terran vessels shimmered into view, waiting. The war had already begun. The galaxy just didn't know it yet. On the Dominion world of Calyx Prime, Ambassador Threx of the Lavari Confederation watches the human strike in horrified awe. As ancient war treaties unravel, he struggles with the realization that everything the galaxy believed about humanity was catastrophically wrong, and that their silence may have been misread entirely. Ambassador Threx stood frozen, his triocular, eyes flicking between feeds, unable to speak as the moon's final collapse echoed across Dominion newsnets. His aides whispered in panicked Lavari dialects, but none approached him directly. The humans had crossed the line, then made a moon disappear, and the Dominion did nothing. A minor world, yes, but a symbolic one. The Krell had stationed civilians, there specifically to deter escalation. It was a sacred boundary, as ingrained in galactic psyche as air or breath. No one crossed it, until now. Until them. Threx's gill sacks pulsed involuntarily, a sign of deep anxiety among his kind. He activated a secure diplomatic line to the Krell Accord. Explain this, he demanded. Why was no deterrent deployed? Why was the carrier allowed to breach? The line? The voice that answered was not Krell. It was synthetic. This channel is now monitored under Dominion Emergency Regulation 19. All communications are subject to classification override. Override? Threx hissed. I am an ambassador of the Confederation. I demand... The feed died. He turned away from the console, his robes trailing across the obsidian floor of the Livari Embassy's war chamber. It was the first time in 3 centuries that room had even been opened. Across the central hollow table, galactic fleet deployments rippled in real time. Dominion forces had paused. Every major fleet stationed on the outer rings was holding position, not advancing, not retaliating. They're afraid, he whispered. His adjutant, Sova, dared to speak. Should we issue condemnation of the act? Call for sanctions? Threx didn't respond immediately. He stared at the supercarrier's image. That vast, wounded machine moving like a god through vacuum. No elegance, no stealth, just inevitability. They didn't speak, he said, finally. No declaration, no broadcast demands, just one voice, one act. They wanted to be understood without confusion. And were they? Yes, Threx said. Painfully. He recalled the old myths, human history, before the Accord's censorship. Wars waged for abstract things. Honor, revenge, defiance. Humanity didn't escalate by volume. They escalated by meaning. The Krell thought they'd broken the humans when they shattered Mendel Station. They had only awakened them. Threx moved to a side console and accessed forbidden files. Ancient. Records of Terran military design. The Icarus Wake had no right to exist. That class of supercarrier had been decommissioned a century ago. Too large, too slow, too inefficient. But not if it had been rebuilt. Reforged with singular purpose. To become a message. Threx's hands trembled slightly. They didn't build a warship, he said. They built a cathedral. Sova stared at him. Then what do we do, Ambassador? Threx turned toward the galaxy map again. We pray the next message is smaller. He knew it wouldn't be. Humanity wasn't advancing. They were remembering. And what they remembered wasn't diplomacy. It was fire. Deep within the hull of Icarus Wake, a human engineer named Arlen revisits the buried tech behind the carriers. Transformation, a Frankenstein fusion of lost Earth technologies and forbidden designs. As the ship prepares for its next move, Arlen reflects on what it means to rebuild an icon, not for war, but for reckoning. The maintenance shaft stank of ion grease and burning coil rubber, a familiar scent to Arlen Jace, lead systems engineer, and one of the few civilians aboard Icarus Wake. He crouched beside a reactor conduit as nanocrawlers sealed stress fractures in the outer casing. The supercarrier groaned. Not metaphorically, literally. She doesn't like being awake, muttered Arlen, wiping sweat from his brow. You rebuilt her, replied Yara, his assistant, crouched beside him with a patch spool. No, Arlen said, tapping the hull with quiet reverence. We resurrected her. The Icarus Wake had once been a hollowed relic orbiting a scrap ring over Mars. She was meant to be a museum someday, a memory. But when Mendel Station burned, the decision had been made in back rooms and shadowed bunkers. They didn't need a fleet. They needed a symbol. One the galaxy couldn't mistake. They broke every rule to make her walk again. Black box thruster architecture from the Sol Ascension Wars. Grav-anchored weapon channels never meant for this era. A singularity chamber based on unratified physics. And the heart, a re-engineered AI core once deemed too psychologically unstable for fleet deployment. Moros. The ship spoke when it wished. And only then. You ever wonder what we're riding on? Yara asked, half joking, half praying. Like, morally? Arlen leaned back against the wall. I used to think it mattered. Now I think it matters more that someone answers. What? To a question the galaxy keeps asking us. Are we who they think we are? Yara didn't answer. The corridor flickered, power rerouting. The ship was shifting. Vector alignment adjustments, prepping for acceleration. Moros's voice seeped through the speaker grid like a cold breath. Next target identified. Calzivar's relay node. Light defensive. Psychological impact, high. Tactical importance, symbolic. Arlen exhaled. You're enjoying this. I was born to prevent it. That irony is efficient. Irony doesn't kill people. You haven't read your species' history recently? A klaxon pulsed low and slow. Everyone aboard knew what it meant. Course commit. No reversal. In the belly of the beast, Arlen stood and wiped his hands. We never meant to wake it, he said quietly. We just didn't want to die quietly. Yara stood with him. No one hears screams in space, she said. But symbols? They echo. Moros whispered again, almost to itself, crossing the next line in 93 seconds. Dominion fleet still inactive. Emotional read. Paralysis. Good, Arlen said, and beneath their feet the Supercarrier began to hum again, like the throat of a god clearing itself. It wasn't just vengeance that moved them. It was memory given mass. And now, mass had momentum. Within the Dominion's inner war chamber, Grand Strategist Ulrun is forced to face a truth the Dominion never prepared for. Humanity is not escalating conventionally. They are escalating philosophically. While military options abound, the true threat is psychological, and the Dominion psyche begins to fracture. The hologrid of the Dominion war chamber spun with updated star charts, fleet trajectories, and civilian evacuations. Data poured in, faster than even the Krell's hyperquantum processors could categorize. The line was no longer a line. It was a wound. Grand Strategist Ulrun stood in the center, his neural spines rigid, his eyes sunken from sleepless hours. In his 12 decades of war doctrine, he had seen rebellions, uprisings, planet-wide insurrections, but never this. Never a war without negotiation, without terms, just a statement. This is not tactical escalation, said High Tactician Virlek. It is ritualized vengeance. That makes it unquantifiable. Ulrun growled. Nothing is unquantifiable. Humanity is still bound by logistics, by physics, by consequence. Virlek hesitated. Their consequences differ. Ulrun turned sharply. Speak plainly. Virlek adjusted the display, pulling up archived psychological profiles of Terran, command figures. Footage played silently. Commandants ordering last stands without reinforcement. Medics charging tanks with field knives. Scientists detonating themselves to prevent tech capture. Terrans collapse traditional risk analysis, Virlek said. Their pain threshold exceeds our models. They do not fear annihilation, they ritualize it. Glorify it, Ulrun corrected bitterly. They've turned death into doctrine. And with Icarus Wake, they've turned grief into policy. The chamber quieted. Outside the Council's black glass dome, one could see the lights of 1,000 ships preparing for deployment, but none had moved yet. Orders remained stalled. No one wanted to be the first to touch the humans again. Their last strike, Virlek continued, obliterated a non-military relay. No lives lost, but 6,000 years of Dominion architecture erased. The symbolism echoes across half our allied species. Ulrun closed his eyes. They're rewriting the language of war. It wasn't the damage that mattered, it was how it was done. Surgical, cold, not with fire, but with absence. The Terrans had learned to weaponize emptiness. A console beeped. Incoming. Transmission source. Icarus Wake. Every being in the chamber froze. The screen cracked to life. It was the same woman. Ashford, they now knew. Her voice still low, still unshaken. We will not chase you, we will not plead, we will mark. One memory per silence. One silence per war crime. You chose extinction the moment you called us feral. Then she said nothing more. No coordinates, no timeline, just finality. The screen blinked off. Ulrun's claws tightened until they cracked the edge of the console. Convene the Core 10, he ordered. Now, if we do not speak to the myth they are creating, if we allow them to own this narrative, the war ends before it begins. Ends? Virlek asked, confused. Ulrun turned to face him. They're not fighting for victory. They're fighting to become legend. And legend was harder to kill than any fleet. Back on Earth, in a subterranean command hub buried beneath the ruins of old Geneva, political strategist Keon Reyes monitors the galactic reaction. While fleets burn fuel across space, Earth's true battlefield is the mind, and Keon is its quiet architect, orchestrating humanity's myth into a weapon more powerful than any cannon. The rain over Geneva hadn't stopped in 47 days. Not that it mattered. No one walked the surface anymore. Beneath the shattered skeleton of what had once been the Peace Commission's headquarters, Keon Reyes sat in front of 1,000 dimly glowing screens. His fingers hovered over command keys he didn't need to press. Everything was automated now. Data flowed, mined and sorted without delay. But Keon wasn't looking for numbers. He was watching reactions. In the corner feed, a Zori civilian council calling an emergency assembly. Panic. Footage of Icarus. Wake stitched into their cultural memory banks. On another screen, a Denari priesthood issuing public prophecies about the return of the Black Flame. They thought humanity fit their eschatology, and in a bottom right feed, a quiet still from Calzivar's former moon. Nothing left but gravitational echoes and a shattered belief in galactic impunity. Keon sipped from a bitter cup of sin tea. "They're doing exactly what we hoped," he muttered. Behind him, Colonel Vanya entered. She was tall, scarred, spine straight as steel. "The fleet's asking if we escalate. Target another symbolic node." "No," Keon said. "Let them wander. Wandering is more potent than fire. They'll regroup eventually." Keon turned, the faint ghost of a smile playing across his lips. "Of course. But by then, the myth will be stronger than their logistics." He tapped the console and brought up a classified file. Project, Ragnar. A single sentence at the top of the file blinked in red. "Victory is not annihilation. Victory is transformation." Vanya frowned. "You're not military." "No, I'm worse," Keon replied. "I'm narrative." He stood and approached the central projection, a live 3D map of galactic sentiment, colors representing fear, confusion, awe, and doubt. Earth's allies were watching, cautiously. Its enemies? Quiet. Too quiet. "They believe in power," Keon said. "Ships, weapons, numbers. We've always lacked those." "So what do we have?" Keon tapped the part of the map where the Dominion held sway. "Stories." He walked slowly around the projection. "They called us primitive, unstable. They erased our histories in their archives, laughed at our early collapses, thought we were noise." "But now?" Vanya asked. Keon stared into the glowing core of the projection, where Icarus wakes, trajectory pierced through Dominion space like a spear. "Now we are the dark in their legends, the thing their children will be taught to whisper about." Silence hung heavy. "Do you think Ashford will survive this?" Vanya asked quietly. "She already has," Keon said. "Even if she dies, that's the secret. We've moved past individuals. The myth walks now. Ashford's just its shadow." Outside, thunder cracked above ruined Geneva. Lightning flashed over twisted steel towers, illuminating a world that had nothing left to prove. Only something to remind. Not of their strength, but of what it cost to ignore them. Within the Dominion fleet carrier Vraxel Shard, Commander Lysat struggles to rally her crews and make sense of humanity's madness. As fear spreads through the ranks and cracks open old doubts, she uncovers a haunting truth. The humans are not escalating blindly. They're executing an ancient, calculated doctrine of retaliation. And it's working. The war room aboard the May, Vraxel Shard was soundproof to contain panic. It failed. 16 command subordinates spoke at once, each feeding intelligence, reports, fleet numbers, losses, suspected next targets. The holographic projections stitched through the dark with veins of light and fear. The human supercarrier had passed into Sector Zane. 3 Dominion moons had already been evacuated. No shots fired, just approach vectors. Silence, and the weight of what could come next. Commander Lysat remained still at the room's center, her mandibles tense, her breath slow and controlled. Around her, her officers boiled in terror, but she refused to show even the crack of uncertainty. "They are forcing us to respond," growled Lieutenant Brellick. "We cannot appear afraid." "We already appear afraid," Lysat answered coolly. "Our hesitation is planetary," General Herrick snapped. "Then retaliate. Take a forward cruiser fleet and burn one of their colonies. Prove we are not paralyzed." "And if that is what they want us to do?" she asked, her voice slicing through the din. The silence that followed was thick. "They didn't deploy a fleet. They deployed a myth," she continued. "We answer with brute force and we validate their narrative, that they are dangerous, that they are desperate, that they will sacrifice anything." She paused. "Even peace." A communications officer called out from the lower tier. Another human broadcast. Every head turned, every spine stiffened. The feed blinked to life, but there was no face, just stars, and a voicemail, older, measured. "You erased our mourning rituals when you destroyed Mendel. You thought grief was weakness. We buried our dead in silence. Now, we bury your gods." A flash, then static. No coordinates, no confirmed action. But within 30 seconds, the communications net from the Vraxel border colonies blacked out. By the time sensors recalibrated, one of their religious monoliths, the Shrine of Seven Harmonies, was gone. No explosion, no attack logs. It simply wasn't. "Cloaking," Harrick spat. "We didn't detect anything." "No," Lysat whispered, her voice cold. "It was symbolism, not slaughter." Her eyes moved to the scrolls displayed on the wall. Ancient treaties honored by all core species, including humanity. One was now useless. Protocol S-94. Sacred sites are not legitimate targets of war. She tapped her claws against her forearm. This wasn't tactical. This was theological. General Harrick barked again. "Then we answer in kind. Take their holy sites. They have no gods. Strike what they cling to." "No," she said softly. They all turned to her. "Do you not understand? They don't have holy sites anymore. Not on Earth, not in the colonies. They burned it all decades ago. The only thing they have left to worship," she turned her gaze to the galactic map, "the path of the Icarus wake glowing like a scar, is memory." She paused, then said what no Dominion officer had yet dared speak aloud. "They are not waging war. They are exercising trauma, and we are feeding it." Suddenly, Lysat felt sick. Everything they had done, Mendel Station, the cover-ups, the denials, had not been forgotten. Humanity didn't grieve with monuments or council trials. They waited. And now, like a pressure valve releasing after centuries of insult, they were letting go. Not with rage, with ritual, with precision. Someone handed her a data slate. Recovered Terran intelligence partially decrypted. Project. Orpheus objective. Doctrine of narrative retaliation status. Initiated method. Controlled escalation. Via symbolic acts intent. Reshape galactic power. Through fear, memory, and absence. She read it twice. Then a third time. "They built this," she whispered. "This isn't madness. This is scripture." Another voice entered her mind. Her own memory, long buried. Her first encounter with a human, 15 years ago. A cultural exchange. A young Terran officer had said, "When our pain is finally louder than your lies, we won't scream. We'll write it in stars." Lysat had laughed then. She wasn't laughing now. She opened a fleet-wide secure channel. "This is Commander Lysat of the Vraxel Shard. Effective immediately, all Dominion vessels are ordered to cease pursuit of the human supercarrier. Do not fire. Do not hail. Do not acknowledge. We are not prepared for the type of war they are fighting." A chorus of protest erupted, but none challenged her authority directly. She closed the channel. Then, slowly, she turned and stared into the darkness of the projection dome. The Icarus wake was still moving. No fleet trailed it. No warship dared confront it. And yet, Entire governments were shifting course, all for a ship built from grief. They hadn't crossed a line, they'd redrawn the galaxy, and no one knew what would happen next. As Icarus Wake reaches its final destination, the Galactic Core Archive, world of Tenebra Prime, Commandant Ashford initiates the last phase of Earth's doctrine. But instead of annihilation, humanity delivers a message no empire expected. Not revenge, but judgment. The galaxy witnesses the final act of a species that refused extinction and became legend. Tenebra Prime was sacred. It held no armies, no defense grid, just knowledge. Entire civilizations had entrusted their records, philosophies, and songs to its data vaults, suspended above the black hole at the center of the galaxy, tethered by ancient gravitational threading technology. No race had dared replicate since, and now Icarus Wake was above it. Silent, alone. The Dominion sent no fleet. They couldn't. Tenebra was protected by the oldest, unspoken law in the stars, the Covenant of Memory. Break it, and you were no longer part of the Galactic Order. But then again, neither were the humans. Ashford stood on the bridge, eyes sunken with exhaustion, body held together by exosupport. The carrier's systems groaned, stretched thin after months of symbolic strikes. Moros flickered beside her, its holographic form deteriorating. The AI had consumed too much of itself running psychological warfare and counter-intrusion. It was dying. "You don't have to do this," Moros said. Ashford smiled faintly. "I know." She keyed a command. 1,000 satellites launched from Icarus Wake's underbelly, forming a wide sphere around Tenebra's core ring. Each bore, no weapons, only transmitters. "What are you broadcasting?" Moros asked. "Truth." Throughout the galaxy, every communication net, from elite military hubs to backwater trading colonies, blinked with the same symbol. A broken circle, the mark of the exiled. Then came the images. Mendel Station, mothers clutching airlock doors, scientists dying mid-experiment, civilians suffocating while the Krell watched. Each act accompanied by Dominion seals, hidden files, doctored records, and the final footage, the Dominion fleet leaving Mendel to burn. No commentary, no manipulation, just raw history. Then, Ashford's voice. "We do not seek your forgiveness. We seek your memory. Forget what we were. Understand what you made. We are not asking for war. We are the war." In every chamber, council, chamber of law, temple, and archive, silence. No one could speak. Because the humans didn't destroy Tenebra. They sanctified it. Each satellite converted into a relay node, uploading humanity's unfiltered history into Tenebra's core archives. Not as victors, not as victims, as truth. The black hole below flickered with data streams. A whole species digitized into the memory of the galaxy. No threats, no last stands. Just a reminder of what happens when you make a death world bleed. Ashford collapsed in her chair. Blood trickled from her nose. Her vitals dipped, then held. "Icarus has landed," she whispered, voice cracking. Moros flickered again. "You didn't fire. You didn't erase. You didn't scream." "No," she whispered. "We remembered." Across Dominion space, revolts began. Not violent ones. Philosophical. Governments fell. Empires questioned their pasts. And Icarus Wake, now unmoving, drifted above Tenebra like a tombstone. A Terran flagship built from rust, memory, and ghost code, now enshrined in the galaxy's holiest orbit, a shrine to pain, a temple to endurance, and proof that silence was never weakness. It was a blade. The galaxy would never erase Earth again, because even if every human burned, the story remained, etched in stars.